let's go to a strategy then that would give us some behaviors that would help us do this. So if you flip the red sheet over, I want to talk to you about the dialogue process. This comes from, I think, the foremost family therapist. He's trained literally thousands of family therapists in the United States. His name is Harville Hendricks. He wrote a bunch of books, and one of them for couples is Keeping the Love You Find, which is a real fun book. But this is the one he wrote for therapists called Imago Relationship Therapy. Now, he has figured out that no matter how dysfunctional your relationship with another human being is, if he could give you just one skill that had the possibility of taking all that painful dysfunction, the conflicts, the problems, the misunderstandings, the communication breakdowns, one skill that could cut through all of that, this is the skill he would want to give that couple. And if they could actually go out and practice this skill, he's confident that they could recreate their relationship in a much more healthy and loving way. So, it starts with mirroring. Now, you all learned that as active listening or reflective listening. Probably sounds familiar, right? This is where I'm going to just act like a mirror and I'm going to say back to you what I understand you to be saying to me, right? So that you know that I'm actually hearing you. But you see, that is important, but notice it's only step one. So most people stop there. Then he says, you got to do part two. That is, this is understanding, not agreement, part two. Remember, that was one of the liberating assumptions. You validate what they have said to you. And the way you do that is you realize that it doesn't matter how crazy it might have sounded to you, whatever they said to you, you know that in the context of their present situation and their total life story, it makes sense to them, right? And that was the 90%, 10% that we did in liberating assumptions, and then we did it again with the awareness wheel. So how do you validate that? I can understand how you experience it that way. Very simple sentence, right? That doesn't say that I experience it that way. That doesn't say that I agree with it. It just says, I can understand how another human being with an entirely different life story and a brain that works different than my brain works, I can understand how they could experience it that way. That's validation. So now, as soon as you validate, guess what happens? This is that little expression, accepting what is changes what is. As soon as I validate, you no longer have to try to sell it to me. You no longer have to defend it. So as soon as all the energy you were gearing up to sell and defend is gone, that energy goes someplace else. And that energy usually goes to the person taking it deeper. So the validating is incredibly powerful, and it's usually left out because people stopped at step one. But then step two is not even enough. So I validated it by saying, I can understand how you would experience it that way. Now I got to go to step three, and now, you see what we have figured out watching thousands and thousands of conversations and trying to help people create better relationship, that when people really feel fully understood, it happens at an emotional level. It doesn't happen in your head. It happens in your whole person, your whole body. Well, feelings are the closest we get to that. It's a physiological response. So we want to empathize. And by empathizing, it means that, okay, I heard what you said, I mirrored it, I validated it, I can understand how you would experience it that way. Now, I want to understand it so well that I can have a fairly good sense of what I would be feeling if I were experiencing it the way that you were experiencing it. And then I offer that back. So if you're experiencing that way, I can understand how you might feel. Now notice I'm tentative. Why? Because I know we have different life stories, and I know our brains are wired different, and just because as I'm trying to fully understand you, I might feel that way because your life story is different than my life story, you might not feel that way at all. So I'm tentative. But you know what? If you're wrong, if you offer it to them tentatively, what will they do? They will correct you. And then you say, oh yeah, I can understand how you would feel that way. Now you have mirrored the words back, you have validated it, and now you have empathized with it. Now the person is starting to feel fully understood. So, In your own conversations with other people, do you think you've done these things very often? Just those three things. See, they're hard to do. They're really hard to do because most of us like to do fast or instant listening. You know, because we got to get on with our lives here. We got lots of stuff we're supposed to be doing. Have you tried to do that? Have you tried to listen on the quick? Has it ever caused you any problems? You know, and you know, you sort of say, gee, I could have saved myself a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of pain if I had just taken 3 minutes to try to do it really well, to try to do deep listening. All right. So, another way to think about this, just to put an image in your head. We're going to go to a play in New York City. It's off Broadway. This is where all the really new radical stuff happens. The play is called Deep Listening. The interesting thing about this play is there is no dialogue. There are no words. Now that's interesting because I don't know if any of you have been following that. There's this Robert Redford movie that's coming out. Has anybody been following that? And there's like 40 words in the entire movie or something like that. Oh, you got to go see this. It's going to be interesting. But in this one, there are no words. All right? So you all go into the theater and you sit down, and pretty soon all the house lights go down, and now it's pitch black. You can't see anything. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. And then all of a sudden, a spotlight goes off on one corner of the stage. Now, there's nothing else to look at because there's nothing else going on in the whole theater, so everybody looks at the spotlight on the stage. It sits there for a few minutes, and then pretty soon, poof, another one comes on over here. Now we got two spotlights. So now you can look back and forth between the two. So this is getting exciting, isn't it? Okay, and now, as you keep watching, you're not sure at first because it's pretty slow, but they start to move towards each other. And so now they're moving very, very slowly towards each other. And now we get to this really incredible moment, and the two spotlights touch. Are you getting excited yet? Okay. But they don't stop there. They keep moving into each other, such that pretty soon they start to overlap. And then, as the play comes to its dramatic ending, what happens is the two spotlights become one, and they glow twice as bright. That's deep listening. Can I enter your world so completely that the two spotlights become one? Or let me say it to you another way. We got these two people. Can I enter your world so completely that I no longer am aware of my own world? I'm just aware of yours. Very difficult. So can I expand my world enough to include the world of the other person? That would be deep listening.